as Buddhists, especially, if we live in a condition where some of the people are not free from suffering, then really, in reality, none of us are free from suffering. Because the whole thing for us as Buddhists to understand is that we are not separate from each other. What impacts you impacts me, and vice versa. Because discrimination is what we do when we recognize and understand the differences between two different things or many different things. And prejudice is when we tend to discriminate against people because of the groups they're in, their gender, their ethnicity, or whatever, but it's usually based on stereotypes. Racism is a combination of prejudice plus the power to do something about it. So I can be prejudiced against anybody because maybe I believe stereotypes, but if I don't have the power to prevent them from living or getting a job or making the kind of money they need to or where they live, then my prejudice doesn't really do the kind of harm that racism does. And when we talk about racism, we talk about individual racism, systemic racism, or institutional racism, unaware racism, internalized racism, all of which are a function of the power of prejudice against those who are discriminated against. Right? And most people don't want to be called racist because our idea of racism is looking at the Ku Klux Klan, or people who burn crosses in your front yards, the white supremacists, all of those kinds of groups that discriminate against all kinds of minorities. And most people don't want to be associated with that. Most people are simply guilty of having prejudice based on stereotypes. But it's something that impacts all of us, that as the teachings that we follow talks about non-duality, we are not separate. Just in the same way we are not separate from Earth or the animals and plants in the environment, we are all inseparable. So we have to take care of each other. It's not about being selfish. It doesn't matter who you are. We all share the same kind of suffering, all of us. None of us can escape birth, aging, sickness, or death. That we know as Buddhist, absolutely. And so because of that, we have to understand that our conditions of suffering are the same and we're not separate. But it's difficult to unlearn it because most of us are not aware that we have it.